Oh, we've got another busy Friday. Huge news in the NFL. The very first non-quarterback $50 million man. And yes, it potentially impacts the 49ers in a big way. We'll explain there. Yesterday led with Dre Greenlaw. Today we can continue on with Dre Greenlaw doing some boxing at a gym out in the East Bay in Dublin. Now, the reason that this is cool is because in 2022, Kyle Shanahan said that Dre Greenlaw reminded him of Mike Tyson. Well, now we actually see Dre Greenlaw partaking in Tyson's sport with, let's rewind, look at the background right about now. Fred Warner, a mural of Fred Warner in the background. So Fred Warner, known for the peanut punch, known for knocking the football out. Dre Greenlaw working on his punch as well. But I will have to say that boxing is just super, super good for cardio, endurance. You're mixing the anaerobic with the aerobic, get in great shape. Dre later on today posted from the 49ers facility, which was cool to see. But we're done with the Dre Greenlaw update. Now to the Will Anderson Jr. update. That is the edge rusher for the Houston Texans. Still just 24 years old. He turns 25 in September. He finished his third year in the NFL, and now he has signed a record-shattering deal. For Will Anderson, this contract extension is worth 3 years and $150 million with $134 million in total guarantees. You could do the simple math. That is $50 million per season on the extension. He's still under contract for 2 more years with the Houston Texans, but they get to this deal early. They tack on the extra time for Will Anderson. So he now becomes the first non-quarterback to be able to say that he is worth a contract of $50 million. In summary, Brock Purdy just last off season, less than a year ago, signed a contract worth $53 million annually for the 49ers. So not just Purdy's deal, but all contracts for good quarterbacks are looking like bigger and bigger bargains. It was obvious at the time that Brock Purdy signed his contract last off season that the 49ers got a good deal. Purdy took a discount. Purdy could have held out and asked for more than $60 million per year. He settled at $53 million per year. He settled for top 10 quarterback money, even though he very, very clearly had the leverage to push for top 5 quarterback money, even top 3 quarterback money. And the 49ers were thankful. That partnership is going well. And now you see a non-quarterback and edge rusher in Will Anderson, who's had 23 sacks over the course of the past 2 years, crack that $50 million mark on the extension. Albert Breer had a really good way to put this into context. He says that there's now 7 non-quarterbacks topping $40 million per year. So you've got one at $50 million per year with Will Anderson, but you've got 7 non-QBs topping $40 million per year. That includes Micah Parsons, Aiden Hutchinson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, TJ Watt, Jamar Chase, and Myles Garrett. There were none. So you've got 7 over $40 million now. There were none 14 months ago. Nick Bosa signed a contract with the 49ers worth $34 million annually less than 3 years ago, right before the start of the 2023 season. That was the top quarterback contract for non-quarterbacks at the time. Bosa led that entire pack when he signed his deal in either late August or early September of 2023. So fast forward to now, the Will Anderson contract at $50 million annually marks a 47% APY, average per year increase, over what Nick Bosa signed for in 2023. Now, Bosa obviously suffered the ACL tear in week 3 of the 2024 season. We can go to the top edge rusher contracts in all football, courtesy of Over the Cap. If Nick Bosa has a good 2026, he might be able to ask for 52, 53 million. Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that Brock Purdy renegotiates his contract for a raise this next offseason if he keeps on playing at the high level that he's been playing at, which is at the top of the league. So I think it would make sense for a Purdy renegotiation to happen. And that Purdy renegotiation, if both he and Nick Bosa enjoy good years, both of those might even have to happen simultaneously for the 49ers, because I don't think that you can have your edge rusher making more than your quarterback. I know that I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself right now. Bosa has to stay healthy. But if he does, well, he's such a good player. He's ranked so high up on all league charts. He's so valuable to the 49ers defense. I mean, you've seen them fall off a cliff without Nick Bosa now for 2 straight seasons. Well, he could be a player given how this market is going. I've got those top edge rushers listed here. We can zoom in a little bit. Micah Parsons is at the top of this list at $46.5 million, but obviously Will Anderson now is going to hold that top spot once his contract is added. You've got Aiden Hutchinson at 45. You've got TJ Watt at 41, Danielle Hunter at $40.1 million, and Myles Garrett at $40 million. So a lot of players above 40 now. Will Anderson to 50. Bosa has a good year. Well, all of a sudden you could talk about him as a 50+ million guy. And the big lesson here, the big takeaway here is that these numbers are creeping up on those quarterback salaries and the QB salaries. Well, Purdy is in the top 10 at 53 million. Anderson not too far off. And if Bosa and Purdy both have good years, well, then I think you could start talking about new contracts for both of them with the way that this NFL salary cap is increasing. We've got 2 more reported top 30 visits for the 49ers who finished up the top 30 visits here in the middle of this week. So maybe we get more names continue to trickle in, but Matt Barrows delivered his piece that gave 2 names that we hadn't known yet for the 49ers top 30 visit list. One is an edge rusher from Michigan. His name is Jashawn Barham, and he's interesting because he switched from linebacker a couple games into this most recent season. So it's a guy with a linebacker's background who is now an edge rusher. Does not have great size as you would expect, but edge rushers have been getting smaller over time because speed has been an emphasis, and he's got a lot of that. He's got 4.6 speed, which is solid. He's got a 1.6 10-yard split, which is elite. All of those above 9 on the relative athletic score, and he also has some good explosiveness metrics. This is a player who was a disruptor. He had a good year for Michigan, even despite the fact that he made the position switch midstream. He's got decently long arms. They're not overly long, but 32.38-inch arms for Jashawn Barham. And he's somebody that's obviously going to have to get used to the position that he was switched to at the NFL level, but he's not going to be a first-round pick. He's somebody that's probably going to be available in the 3rd or maybe even the 4th round, where the 49ers have 4 selections. So look out for Jashawn Barham. 49ers taking a look, hosted a top 30 visit with a recent positional convert. I think that the most likely position that the 49ers select in the first round of this NFL draft is edge rusher. That doesn't mean they're going to pick edge rusher. We'll be previewing the probabilities for you. But it's funny, I see so much groupthink out there. I saw SF Data Niners post all that goes great graphics, and he was able to canvas all the mock drafts online. And something like 2/3 to 3/4 of mock drafts online think the 49ers are going to pick an offensive tackle, where I really don't think that's the likeliest position at all. I'm not discounting any possibilities, but for there to be that much certainty, or at least that many people picking in one direction for offensive tackle, I think that that's a great example of people seeing an idea, copying an idea, and then running with it as their own, which is essentially the definition of groupthink. But that does seem to be happening. Mike says the 49ers could take somebody like Jashawn Barham in the 2nd round. Of course, their 2nd round pick is lower. It's down at number 58, and they don't have a 3rd round pick. And if you see Barham as somebody who could go in the 3rd round, if that's what the 49ers feel, and they don't have that 3rd round pick, then yes, a 2nd round pick would technically be a reach, but it would be one that would make a little bit more sense given the fact that they don't have that pick in the third. But edge rusher seems important to the 49ers, and there's several positions. Tight end is another one that we've talked about. And tight end is another position that the 49ers hosted, according to Matt Barrows. Michael Trigg, who's expected to be available in the mid to later rounds. Tight end out of Baylor, somebody who can catch the football, somebody who can block, but not overly athletic, but a versatile talent. Michael Trigg out of Baylor is also on the 49ers top 30 visit list. And do not discount the potential possibility of the 49ers going after a tight end. A player that we should talk about is Hakee Mesador out of the University of Miami. It's funny because I'm talking about how young Will Anderson is, the edge rushing phenom who just finished his third year, who just signed for near his jersey number per year, $50 million per year. It's a record for non-quarterbacks. Well, he doesn't turn 25 until September. Hakee Mesador out of Miami, who was an edge rusher, turned 25 years old 12 days ago on April 5th. And that's part of the reason he's an older prospect. That's part of the reason why he might be available down at pick number 27. But this is a player who was extremely, extremely disruptive for the University of Miami last season. I mean, when we're talking about statistics and we're talking about disruptiveness, he had 17 and a half tackles for loss, 12 and a half sacks. And this is going to make some fans cringe because there has been an injury history, but it might be another reason why Hakee Mesador drops down from his production would indicate that this could be a guy in the top half of the first round, the top 10 pick. But the age, teams obviously like younger prospects, and the injuries might mean he's available when the 49ers come to pick. He's 6'3", he's 260 pounds, heavy enough to play a big end position to where he could also be a three-down guy and stop the run. As I said, 17 and a half tackles for loss, 12 and a half sacks, 4 forced fumbles for Miami, a team that made it all the way to the national championship game, a team that actually challenged the University of Indiana. You can't say that about most college football programs. I mean, the Hoosiers ran through just about everybody last year. And Hakee, being 25 years old, is probably a day one plug-and-play type of player, if that's what the 49ers are looking for, and they might be on the defensive line. He's had surgeries to both feet and a pre-existing shoulder surgery, and that is something that obviously would go off as an alarm bell for a lot of people following this. Like, the 49ers coming off of a bad injury situation in 2024 and 2025, looking to get younger, looking to get healthier. This wouldn't make them all that much younger because the guy's already 25 years old. But boy, was he productive. And if we're talking about probability of picks in the first round, and if that is edge, and we've talked about Malachi Lawrence out of the University of Central Florida, we'll be dropping a mock draft video tomorrow, my only mock draft video. Mike is going to be a special guest, so bookmark that. Be ready for the mock draft video coming tomorrow. But we talk about the 49ers going edge in that first round. Well, Hakee Mesador is a player that cannot be discounted. All right, I'm going to go and open this up to some of your questions. Mike making an appearance on the show tomorrow. So Mike is going ahead and commenting down here in the section. Yes, Mesador has an injury problem, but whenever you look at injuries, you look at value, and teams are going to do that throughout this entire draft. I think if this guy were more healthy over the course of his college career, he would be a slam dunk top 10 pick. So then you ask, all right, well, how far should the injury concerns drop him? Do they drop him to the second round? It's tough to say. But with 12 and a half sacks, 17 and a half tackles for loss, with how valuable the position the pass rusher spot is, I don't think he drops all the way to the second. So maybe the sweet spot ends up being the number 27 overall pick, and that is what the 49ers are. And we do know that there is a defensive end need for San Francisco. Injuries in football, par for the course. No one is excluded. Yeah, the key is to build depth. And yes, and one thing about about Barham, the tight end or the other edge rusher that we were talking about, is that he played 47 of 47 games for the University of Michigan. Now, he wasn't playing at an edge rusher position for all of those. He moved there a few games into 2025. I don't know if that is going to change his health prospects, but you do your best to find guys who are more available than others, of course, and you've tried to find that right nexus of value in the NFL draft, but nobody's going to go through a football career completely unscathed. It is a violent sport. It will see injuries. And the way that you best set yourself up to overcome them as a team is to build as much depth as possible, build as much team cohesion as possible. I mean, a great example of a team overcoming injuries was actually the 2025 49ers. They had a mass injury event and they won 13 games. Mike Evans actually shared this week that a big reason why he signed with the 49ers is because of the resilience that they showed in overcoming all of those injuries. He says it's a credit to the guys in the locker room, the culture, the coaching staff, obviously the depth that the front office was able to build into the roster. All of those things so important. They appeal to a future Hall of Famer like Mike Evans. They should probably appeal to people watching on YouTube. But I will say, and I don't disagree, Hugh. You say surgeries on both feet is a major red flag. I do not disagree, but he also came back from both of those surgeries. And right now we're talking about Hakee Mesador, and he delivered 17 and a half tackles for loss for a national championship participant in this past season for the University of Miami. So he's played at a high level coming off those surgeries. They're a red flag that almost certainly will cause his draft stock to drop. I don't know how much it's going to drop, but I do know that his resume, his tape, with a healthy, clean and healthy bill would be a top 10 worthy selection. Will it drop down to 27? Is it going to drop further? I don't know, but I am smart enough to not talk about the draft in absolutes. There are a lot of people who aren't smart enough to avoid that. And they talk about the draft in absolutes. And that's the quickest way to sound like you don't know what the hell you're talking about. The draft is something that has to be taken with a sliding scale, with gray area. And I think that the case of Hakee Mesador very easily falls into that gray area. Eric Gomes is on an all caps binge today. I think he always talks in all caps, but all injuries have to be waited out. They do. That is very, very true. All right, let's hear some good questions. I want to make this show as conversational as possible. So let's go for it. It's a Friday afternoon. We can keep this nice and casual. I will wait for some good questions. Jordan Renan, who covers the New York Giants, says that Jeremiah Love, the running back, is the top graded player for multiple teams around the league. It seems that he's getting that hype. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza is going to go first to the Raiders. Doesn't mean that he's the top graded player. He is in the most important position, though, and positional value does have at least some impact on all of this. Ryan, this is a good point. He says, I know there's value. I just think the 49ers need to pay extra attention to the injury issue. Perhaps they will. We shall see. That is good. Here's a question. What do you think about what Jack Jones said about Purdy? Well, first off, Jones said this before he signed with the 49ers. I don't know when he said it. He might have actually said it not even this offseason, and it just surfaced now. Yeah, Jones said that Purdy's job is easy. That is a demonstrably stupid comment. The 49ers are not signing Jack Jones, or they didn't sign Jack Jones a week ago for his quarterback analysis in the media. That's, it's not a smart comment. I think Jack Jones will probably have to address that comment at some point when the media talks to him in the 49ers locker room. He'll probably say that it wasn't a smart comment. I mean, anyone who insinuates that the quarterback position is not easy to play in the NFL is incorrect. It's just, it's not a statement of fact, right? So he said it before he was teammates with Brock Purdy and the 49ers. He'll retract it in some way, I would predict. And at the end of the day, it's a big nothing burger because the guy's a cornerback who is not being consulted for his QB opinions by anyone who's actually making decisions. Jones listening to Cam Newton is his first mistake. That's funny. That's a good one. Don't tell Lombardi herself, the Auburn alum. Which of my favorite sandwiches would I compare Brock Purdy to? Okay, well, I have to think about that and I'll give you an idea later. But there is a sandwich shop in North Beach, and I've got to find it here, that I believe has a Jimmy Garoppolo on the menu, and I think it has a Brock Purdy sandwich on the menu. I'm going to search it right now and get the name for you guys. It's not one I don't think that I've featured, but I think that they did add a Purdy sandwich, and I've just got to zoom in on it here to figure out which one exactly it is. It's a fair question. It is on, I believe, Vallejo Street, not too far from Cafe Trieste. Or is it on Green? No, it's on Vallejo Street. And so I just got to type in sandwich here. It's a little deli. It's good. It's Palermo 2 Delicatessen. And I wish I could see their menu because I do believe that there is a Purdy sandwich on it now. I'll have to answer your question. And they got a lot of 49ers stuff. They even have a big Candlestick Park flag above the cash register. Yeah, so big 49ers fans. Maybe I could even shout out to them right now. Give them some love on the show if I can get this picture. Because we were talking about Candlestick yesterday, right? And, well, we can talk about Candlestick today as soon as I have this taken care of. I just have to find my window where I share my screen. Been answering questions for too long. All right, here we go. This is it. This is the place with your Brock Purdy sandwich. It's called Palermo Delicatessen on Vallejo in North Beach. And there you can see there's that farewell season Candlestick Park flag right above it's actually covering some of the menu. I guess Candlestick is more important than the menu to them over there in North Beach. Yeah, who knew that the Raiders played as the home team at Candlestick before the 49ers in the 60s? We're going to need to make a Purdy sandwich video. That's going to happen at maybe in the spring, or maybe we'll wait till next season. We'll see. We've got some OTAs coming up. We've got the draft coming up. We've got rookie mini camp coming up. That's where we'll first hear from new 49ers defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. This is a good point. Tight end seems like an obvious choice at some point. The league has been trending towards multiple tight ends. Yes. That's assuming, though, there's a tight end that you like at the right spot of the draft. You can never force a position. That's where you get terrible value. So we'll see. We will have to just wait and evaluate the draft position by position for the 49ers. Chances of a safety being drafted first. That's interesting to me. I mean, I haven't gotten a firm read on what Raheem Morris thinks of the 49ers safeties yet. That's the big variable here, right? So if he thinks that position is deficient, obviously the chances of a surprise safety splash at number 27 are much higher. If he thinks that he can work with it, then maybe they wait till later in the draft, and maybe they do like some lower ranked prospects at that safety position. What is my favorite San Francisco area brewery? I would say Russian River Brewing Company, and they have 2 locations now, but the original one, I would go to the original one. in Santa Rosa. It's in downtown Santa Rosa, and you can get the Pliny the Elder beer. There's a beer called the Blind Pig if you like IPAs, but their IPAs are like really good. I don't normally, I'm not like the typical hipster that's in love with IPAs, but they find a way to make their IPA surprisingly smooth, and it's a really, really good beer. That's the Russian River Brewing Company, and it is in Santa Rosa. They have a second one in, is it in Healdsburg? It's north of, I think it's in Healdsburg, but it's not in downtown Healdsburg. So I'd recommend the downtown location in Santa Rosa. There's a lot of breweries in all of Sonoma County and all of the Bay Area. I am not going to Vegas for WrestleMania. We've got a question about WrestleMania. I will not be there. Maybe George Kittle makes a surprise appearance, or maybe has a scheduled appearance. I don't know. Something that soured you on Jimmy G was when he said that Las Vegas is better pizza than San Francisco. That is ridiculous. I don't remember him saying that. So I hope you're not putting words in his mouth. But yeah, I would disagree with that take if that was true. Hugh says the 49ers will never take a safety in the first. They don't make enough to justify it. Positional value dictates other positions are better on a rookie deal. Yeah, in general, yes. That being said, if a player is available that's good enough and better enough than other options, then I don't think there's a hard and fast rule for the draft. I think that you have trends and you have certain soft guidelines because of things like positional value that you're talking about. But I don't, again, looking at it as a hard and fast rule, I don't think serves anyone right, because the 49ers have broken from trends. They've adjusted trends, and every single season presents a different type of draft and a different mentality of team. Like everything is adjusted from season to season. Needs are a little bit different. And, we can talk about best player available as a hard and fast rule. And I think it's the best overarching guiding philosophy, but you cannot operate in a total vacuum ever. You have to consider your needs when you are looking at a draft, even if you're looking at it through the lens of best player available. So it's a case-by-case basis with a lot of gray area. I think that it's possible they trade D Winters over the course of the draft. They do have a ton of numbers at the position. They don't have any picks on the last day beyond round 4. But the draft also is known or is assumed to be weaker in the later stages. So maybe the 49ers don't care about picks in rounds 5, 6, and 7 as much. Obviously, they can trade up. They can trade back. They can trade players away. They can trade for talent. We've seen the 49ers do a little bit of everything over the course of the Shanahan-Lynch regime. They traded for Trent Williams during the draft in 2020. They traded players away. I think they traded Matt Breida away during the draft in 2020. So they were wheeling and dealing during that 2020 draft. They have traded up to grab a receiver. They traded up to grab Brandon Ayuk in 2020. In retrospect, holy crap, that was a busy draft for the 49ers. And they've traded back. I don't think they did so in 2020, but they traded back in 2017. Solomon Thomas. I think they traded back in 2020 in the first round, right? Then they trade back a spot before they picked Javon Kinlaw. So 2020 saw a record amount of trades. I just realized that, just jogging through the memories of that draft in my head. That to me is crazy that the 49ers executed so many of those. I almost hope we get that, so we have a lot to talk about this year. I almost hope that we can get a ton of trading activity. Mike, am I correct on that? They traded down for Kinlaw, one spot. Down for Kinlaw. Obviously, up for Ayuk. Those were both in the first round of 2020. They traded for Trent Williams, and I believe they traded Matt Breida away. I did that without notes. And I think that I'm right. And I think they traded Matt Breida away for a 5th round pick during that 2020 NFL draft. All right, waiting for more questions for you guys. Will Anderson indeed signs a $150 million experiment? Extension, sorry, not experiment. I was typing something to Mike. Will Anderson sign a 150? It will be an experiment. We'll see if a quarterback, non-quarterback at 50 million plus, ends up being something that's sustainable. I mean, it's crazy because the quarterback market is essentially frozen. We have seen the quarterback market top out. It's been a while. It's been a couple of years now since Dak Prescott signed at 60 million per year. Brock Purdy was a natural candidate to exceed the 60 million per year, but he was happy to take less to help out his team. So between the Josh Allen and the Brock Purdy contracts lost off season, both of those guys decided not to break the scale. Both of those guys decided to settle in the mid 50s. The quarterback market stopped inflating. It settled down. But the non-quarterback markets, edge rusher and receiver, especially edge rusher, have decided to keep on expanding. And now, because quarterback has stopped in place and these other ones are still increasing, they're close to a convergence. And you can't convince me that the quarterback position is only a few million more important than the edge rusher position. Quarterback is a whole heck of a lot more important, which is why the surge happened there in the first place. So either we're about to see another surge in QB prices, or we'll see a calming of these edge rusher prices, or both. Like the setup right now, and again, I think I put it up on the screen a little bit earlier. We can put this up again. Yep, here it is. Brock Purdy and Will Anderson. The numbers for both of these guys are awfully close together. It's crazy. I'm waiting for some more good questions. Ryan asks, I feel like Pearsall hasn't proved himself yet overall. I would say so. I mean, he's got to play for a longer stretch. Probably just bad luck. Will the 49ers exercise his fifth-year option? I don't think they would do so automatically, but I think that it's something that would happen if he delivers a solid, long, durable stretch of football. And he has all the talent in the world to do so, right? So if he stays healthy, I think that earns Ricky Pearsall his extension. More questions are welcome. I think Sadiq can block. I think Sadiq, you're talking about Kenyon Sadiq of Oregon. He is maybe the most athletic tight end prospect we've seen since Vernon Davis, and that's saying something. He can block, and his, if he somehow drops to 27, or if he's hovering around the early 20s and the 49ers want to trade up, if we want to talk about the tight end position, the 49ers can get a lot of intel, and I'm sure they've gotten a lot of intel on Kenyon Sadiq through Dan Lanning, who's Oregon's coach. Good relationship with John Lynch. So if Sadiq is available, and some people think he might drop to 27, I'm skeptical. But if he's available, the 49ers will have every bit of intel to make as good of a decision as possible, given their relationship with the University of Oregon and especially the relationship between John Lynch and Dan Lanning. Could I rationalize a Trent Williams trade even though it's unlikely? Well, yeah. I could rationalize it, but I still, and here, let me just go through the entire thought process here. Say that the 49ers want to grab their left tackle of the future and make that transition now, this offseason, because they believe that Trent Williams is about to hit a wall. I think that if you do trade Trent Williams, you think that the top 5 performance that we've seen year over year is going to come to a halt right around now, right around his age 38 season. So you want to recoup as much value as possible for Trent Williams now. So you would go ahead and offload him for a sizable return. There would be a team that doesn't think he's about to fall off, that's desperate for a left tackle. And if you're the 49ers, you get something back for Trent since he remains under contract. And of course, you replace him through either the NFL draft or you sign somebody like Taylor Decker, but I still think that just puts you on a treadmill at best, and it doesn't solve your problem. Decker did decline last year too, and he's not as good as Trent Williams. So it almost certainly be paired with the drafting of an offensive tackle. Now, this is where I get caught up in the this doesn't make sense portion of it, because any tackle, no matter how good of a prospect you get, even if it's Caden Proctor, who's probably the best pass protector in this NFL draft out of Alabama, the guy's a big wall, nobody's going to be as good as Trent Williams, like at the start of this season, right? Like, even if Williams has a big drop off, I think it would happen over the course of the year. He'd probably wear down over the course of the year. And he's so damn good to begin with that it'd be really hard to expect an ascending rookie to match his level of play, let alone surpass his level of play. Now, maybe by year 2, when Trent is 39 and the rookie, whomever it is, has a year of seasoning, maybe that whole dynamic of the rookie or the second-year guy being better than Trent Williams is more realistic. But I find it almost impossible to think that somebody's going to be better than Trent Williams in 2026. But if you had to rationalize it, well, it would be like threading that needle and trying to go for the youth and the longevity and the development because you see somebody who fits the position perfectly now and you wanted the capital for Trent Williams. That's how a trade would work. I just think that the pathway to success there, considering the fact that the 49ers are trying to maximize 2026, very obviously with Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, the trade for Osa Odighizuwa, the signing of Dre Greenlaw, I just don't think that pathway is near wide enough to successfully execute with confidence if you're the 49ers. And the way that you can successfully execute with confidence if you're San Francisco is if you re-sign Trent Williams and make sure that everything is smoothed out on that front. You can even do that and also theoretically try to set yourself up for the future with the guard tackle combination. We talked about plugging in somebody at guard like a Proctor. If you trade it up, could play left guard, then he can move to left tackle. That's really unlikely though, but they have hosted Caden Proctor, so I think that it's worth at least mentioning. You could just decide to prolong Trent Williams' career by drafting a really good left guard. I think that's probably the most likely option in front of the 49ers right now, is that you just focus on left guard. You don't think about, okay, this guy could maybe move to left tackle later. No, just focus on left guard, get a good player in there, have him enjoy the benefits of lining up next to Trent Williams, because that's huge. Trent Williams, by extension, gets the benefits of having a good, talented young left guard next to him. That can prolong his effectiveness for a couple years. And then just figure out that left tackle situation when you actually have to cross the bridge. Because it's hard to find a tackle that can fit in a tackle like the 49ers scheme in that tackle position. It's really, really difficult. You can't just pick a random guy in the 4th or 5th round and say he's going to replace Trent Williams. They tried that with Jalen Moore. I don't think they tried to do it, but you had that experiment play out in real time. just because they needed tackle and offensive line depth. So they used a 5th-round draft pick on Jalen Moore in 2025. He earned a lot of money, $15 million annually from the Chiefs when he left in free agency after 2024, but he was nowhere near good enough to leverage the 49ers against Trent Williams in contract talks. He wasn't good enough to be the successor to Trent Williams. So I think you probably only replace Trent when it actually comes time to replace Trent. And the pathway to replace him efficiently this offseason via trade just isn't very wide at all. It would take almost like a miraculous combination of moves for the 49ers to push that, to pull that off successfully. This is true. The 49ers had Joe Staley ahead of Trent Williams, and they were able to go from Staley to Williams with the trade in the 2020 draft. Should the 49ers trade up for Casey Concepcion? The one thing that Concepcion really has working for him is the fact that he can return punts. And the 49ers have a void, a vacancy at that position. They had Casey Concepcion had 2 punt returns for touchdowns this past year for Texas A&M. The guy is electric in that phase of the game, and we'll see what the 49ers do at the return position. They have not had a punt return since 2011, since the opener, which is the longest drought in the NFL. Ted Ginn Jr. against the Seahawks. Jim Harbaugh's first game is when the 49ers last took a punt back for a touchdown. Now, remember, they had a decent returner in Sky Moore last year. They didn't trade for him until shortly before the start of the regular season. So there still is plenty of time to figure that position out. Maybe they do it through the draft. Maybe they do it through another move like the one for Sky Moore. I don't think that you can execute a player-for-player trade like this. I mean, Luke McCaffrey is an asset. Brandon Ayuk is more of a liability for the 49ers. Now, the only way that you trade Ayuk is if a team wants to cut up in line to get him. All right, guys, I will be signing off. We will talk to you guys very soon. It's been a good Friday afternoon. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Everybody hit that subscribe button. Hopefully I answered all your questions. We will talk to you soon.